So what I want to talk with you today about is this plunge I made into the finale of the Tchaikovsky Second Symphony for, with the orchestra I'm conducting. And as I was talking to the orchestra yesterday about the crazy harmonic progressions in this finale, I just thought, this is really a discussion I should be having with you guys because, I don't know how much my orchestra appreciated that. They had to sit there and listen to me on an electric keyboard just cavell about what Tchaikovsky is doing, and I'm trying to communicate to them what he's doing is completely insane, and so I want them to bring some of that instability into their playing. And so I told them this is a discussion we're going to have about how we can communicate what's going on in the harmony into the way we play the music. So I'm going to get into that, and I hope it's a lot of fun for you. One of my Harvard colleagues, Gary Noland, who was a Richard Strauss fanatic, he still composes his very odd and virtuosic music in Oregon. He lives in Oregon. I should probably have him on as a guest. That would be a trip. He alerted me to what Tchaikovsky was doing when we were first studying together at Harvard. And he talked about Tchaikovsky's wedges. And he played me several of them. But the one I remember the most, which you've heard me talk about a lot, is this one. It's like this infinite staircase, and what's going on in it, the reason I call it a wedge is because, or I guess he called it a wedge, I can't remember now which one of us did, but it just is a wedge, is that the outer voices are going, the top voice is going up chromatically and the bottom voice is going down chromatically, just like if you had a chromatic scale and you do it together. They create a real tension, and the tension you can hear if I play this is that it resolves, and that's what's going on in this Tchaikovsky wedge. Let me see a second. Times, and then it goes up. So what's happening is the chromaticism is going in different voices. First it's the bottom voice and top, and then you hear it in the bottom and middle, and now the lower middle and bottom, and then back to the upper voice, the middle, and then bottom middle. So the bass is continuing to go down by chromatic steps, and then what's happening is different voices in the top chords are moving up chromatically, taking turns. And then so that's one thing that's really powerful about it, that you're always getting some version of where it always feels like it's resolving. And yet it never stops, because then you go, and then you see, there are other forces going on at play. One of the other forces going on at play is that each chord each moment, each note is being harmonized in such a way that it creates some kind of seventh chord. And in our system with seventh chords, when you hear, let me admit some people. When you hear seventh chords in our system, we're built to always resolve them in our head. So if I play this, you instantly expect, right? If I go, you expect that. So, but if I go, that's a surprise. And then this creates its own seventh chord. Now this one we expect to go to here, right? But instead it goes completely different place. And then to here, which we expect to see. And it goes. So in other words, each chord that you're hearing, successive chord, is resolving deceptively. And it's continually resolving deceptively, so that you never have a sense of resolution, of calm. So that's the second thing that's so powerful about it. Because I could resolve each one of those to different places. I could go, or but it doesn't do that. And this could go, but it goes. This could go, but it doesn't do that. It goes. And this could go, but instead it goes. This could go, but instead it goes. So I know this gets a little tiring, but you see, it's creating this infinite loop, just like Escher's fantastic graphic drawings, where you see a staircase that just never ends. And that's what this effect is. Now, there's another property, a third property makes this so cool and very Escher-like, is that the way the harmonic series works is that with the harmonic series, you can be very deceptive and leave out a lower octave. By doing that, it really does seem like it's caught in a loop. And when I play this for you, you're not going to be quite sure which lower octave I've left off. So in other words, if I was just to go like this, well, I'm out of keys, right? But I can do it in such a way that I'm never out of keys, because I can go. And because I have all this other stuff going on in the top, you're not going to notice it. Just goes forever. So this is all a prelude to talk to you about the Tchaikovsky Second Symphony. So what is the purpose of doing something like this other than to be insane? Well, the purpose of this is if you want to be able to get anywhere, you can get on this escalator or carousel, whatever you want to call it, and you can get off at any time, because all it takes to get off of it is to just go 5-1. At any time I can get off and go. And I'm back to the world of the rational. But so that's one of the advantages. And if you're Tchaikovsky, at least early Tchaikovsky especially, although you sometimes see in late Tchaikovsky, he is aware that he has a very hard time doing the magic of Schubert and Beethoven and Mozart and Haydn, of getting compelling, even though he's this master of harmony, getting this compelling sense of progressions that go places. And so what he'll do is he'll fall back on these parlor tricks to get from one thing to another, especially in his early music. Now, Tchaikovsky was one of the most honest composers I've read about, a very honest soul, and he wrote about this as a huge crutch in his writing. He called it his mountains of padding. In other words, okay, he's this unbelievable melodist, so he writes these great themes. Now I've got to get to this next place. Well, just throw in this, some variation of that, and then I can get to the next place really easy, or create the psychological power I need for the brass instruments. I should mention there's a fourth thing that's so powerful about that progression, is that the chords are so continually rich. Usually when we're doing our chord progressions, they're not always this rich. This is almost like a continuous cascade of 4-note chords we're hearing. And then I guess this is a triad. But then again, right to 4 notes, and then 3. So it's very rich. And for Tchaikovsky, that creates this really rich emotional tapestry in his music. So in the finale to the Second Symphony, Little Russian Symphony. He jokes about the butler, his brother's or sister's butler, I guess, where he was staying in Ukraine, whistling this tune all over and over again. And then his whole, the whole piece is variations. But as I explained the orchestra, the variations are not what this piece is about, this finale. What it is about is he becomes obsessed with the third. Third above and a third below. So he starts to do the thing. So it's like a whole tone scale. That's just the exposition. It gets very exciting with that. And I'll play this when we go to recording. And then you get to the second theme. And the second theme is so completely different. And I think you guys all know, guys and gals all know this piece. But it has this second theme that is, it just comes out of left field. Let me get to where he first, you're getting this big thing of and then you just go straight again to this third. He goes, and then. It's so completely different. But what's really powerful to me is the choice of making that a tonal center. This is the exposition. So the second theme is instead of going to the dominant, which would have been here, or he goes here to the submediate, which is C to A flat. And then you get this fantastic syncopated thing. Very expressive thing. It has such a different feel. Although it's still kind of sounds like the inverse of, right? Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? So there, it is related for sure to that folk tune. But there's this weird chromatic thing going on. The violas go. And that's like a wedge. Now the melody goes down and the accompaniment goes up. And of course the syncopation is such a powerful idea. Okay, so that all happens in the exposition. Okay, and then we get the development. That's what I want to talk about. This development, the exposition is not crazy. It's peculiar. It's not crazy. But when we get to the development section, suddenly the first thing you hear are these notes, these thirds out of nowhere. And then so if I just play that, those are just cascading thirds, right? And so what he does in this development section is he becomes completely obsessed with this chain of thirds that never ends. And in fact, my little sketch of the development section in terms of the bass notes are this. This is the whole development section. So that what I just did is I played a huge amount of music, the whole development section, but all this sort of the backbone of it, and you can hear it just thirds after thirds after thirds. So what he's doing is, instead of doing music where you have 1-4-5 progressions like so instead of having those everything is in thirds. So you start getting these kinds of sounds. I joke all the time to my students that, you know, this is where John Williams gets his Star Wars themes, because that's built of the same idea of thirds. Instead of going, you go. He steals that right out of Tchaikovsky. So this is what you have after you get these thirds. Then he brings back the first tune. Okay, and that's the progression. That's just a transition now to get him to for his first big section in the development section. He brings in the second tune now. Now, what it should have done was this. But this is what he gives you. That's one of the craziest sounds I've ever heard in terms of progression. Let me just play the chords and maybe you can hear what I mean. So it goes. You can hear it. It's kind of screwy. It's like a step too low. It should have been. So instead of going, he's a step low. And you sense that. It feels like it's just odd. It's careening. So what's that about? Well, it's letting him go. Letting him go by thirds again. So it's letting him go. Right, instead of you can hear it. It's like it has a flat tire. Continues with thirds. So again. So the same problem is, how are you going to get off the carousel? And so this thing gets crazier and crazier. And then what he does is so much fun. He says, let's bring both themes together on top of each other. So at the same time, while I'm going through this crazy merry-go-round of thirds going down and out. And so you're going to hear, that's the second theme. And then you're going to hear the first theme. And they're all on top of each other. then he flips them. He puts the second theme on top and the first thing on the bottom. But what's really going on through all of this is still da 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 da. It's just going through the thirds. Over and over. So the question is, how are you going to get out of it? And what's so amazing is he gets trapped. It's like a Stephen King horror film. You don't really get out of it. And that's what I'm going to show you now. And I think when you listen to it this way, the piece becomes a lot more fun. It's not simply a set of variations. Okay, so let's... Okay, so this is the end of the exposition. And I'll talk you through it and stop and start it. Okay. Now we start the development. Becomes the structure for everything. First theme brought back. Now second theme, twisted. Isn't that Baroque? It's so weird every time you hear that, because there was a tenderness when we heard it in the exposition, so different from the kind of robotic intensity and energy of the first theme. And now it's like perverted. It's my feeling of it. It's perverted by all these thirds. C, A, F sharp. Second theme. Okay, so the effect of all of this is we have no clue what key we're in, right? Because he's going down by these thirds, we don't have a sense at all. I mean, the piece was in C major, after all, right? It was this mindless whistling tune in C major. Tchaikovsky has, I mean, it's just so brilliant and Halloweenish to me that he's taking us, maybe instead of a carousel, maybe a better thing is a house of mirrors. Like, we can't get out of this thing now. It's just propelling. We're in E flat major, then we're in C major, then we're in A major, then we're in F sharp major, then we're in E flat major, then, and then he goes down a fifth to A flat, and then we start the thirds again from another place. So it's really hard to get your bearings in here, but it's such an incredible ride. G major. C sharp. Yeah, if you look at the music, even if you don't read music, all these things next to the round note heads, right? The sharps, the accidentals. The fact that you're seeing this, it looks hard and complicated in detail. I can tell you from personal experience, this is pure hell for the winds and the strings because they instantly have to adjust their intonation. And to play this in tune is, I mean, it really takes professionals to do this. This is going to be very hard work for my youth orchestra because it's going through all the keys and it's going very fast and you don't know where you are. Okay, now it looks like we've gotten to a dominant, which is we're just trying to get to 5 to get back 1 so we can be done with this. And so it looks like we're home. Finally, but that's not the case. Back to the thirds. C sharp. chords are happening faster. I mean, for crying out loud, this should have stopped, but we're caught in the elevator. We're going to do it over and over and over again. So how are we going to get out of this? Here? Ah, it looks like we have a recapitulation here. Keep changing again. This is the dominant. Maybe we're out of it. Boom. Boom. You get the percussion here, the cymbals and the bass drum, just boom. There's no other way to stop this insanity. So you just had to cut it off with this guillotine thing. It's so funny. And then the horns sound the G, the dominant we need, and we get the second theme, finally in a sense where it looks like we're going to be home in C major. But with that much insanity, just like what's going on with our world now, this disruption is not done with its mischief. There's the second theme in this tonic. Very tender now. Finally. Winds are added. As I pointed out to my orchestra, even though it sounds so, it sounds so much more stable here. If you listen to the inner line, it is not, because it. So you've got this da 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 da. It's just pushing you into chaos at every moment, pushing you into this chaos. And again, back to the thirds. It's the E flat. So in the closing section now. Okay, closing. There we are, C major. Okay, that's pretty stable. Looks like we're going to have a stable end. Brass and percussion strings. Going up by thirds again. Sounds like we're in the close. It's going to end in C major. Uh-oh, listen to that piccolo going nuts. Ascending sequence, again, all thirds. We're on the escalator again. There's the thirds. It's nuts. So here we are in the coda, and we're back to all of this insanity of this House of Mirrors or carousel we can't get off of. Just like in the development section. Listen to the gong coming in here. Boom. Tam tam. Again, that's how else do you end it? Here's the coda goes nuts. Okay, notice all those wedges. Sorry. You can see the voice is going out and out and out. This again is mountains of padding, and it goes completely insane in this coda. And that insanity all came from the this carousel we couldn't get off of descending thirds in the development section. So this should be played, I think, in a completely crazy manner. It's like you're caught in this loop you can't get out of. it's like it's like an insane version of Beethoven's Fifth, where how are you going to get off this thing? You just have to blare C so many times. It just gives up. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you because, like I said, this was not a piece at first I was interested in conducting or doing with the orchestra, and now I'm having such a good time with it, and I'm just bowled over at the mad genius of that finale. Because what was was bothering me. Everyone was just saying, "Well, it's just such a clever set of variations." That is not at all what is going on with that. It is a completely insane romp with his mountains of padding, as he's making, he's taking something that's such a student blemish, so to speak, and he's turning into this unbelievable strength. He's discovering genius inside of this problem of being locked in. And now that I'm hearing it that way, I'm just enjoying it in such a deeper manner. And I just wanted to share that with you. And so I hope you enjoyed that.
Hey, Russell, are your students, are the musicians getting it?
Yeah, I think they really started to get excited when I started to show that. Because when I conduct, I have an electric keyboard next to me so I could play these progressions. And just because I wanted them to get it into their ear so that they can really feel why that was so weird to go. So I tried different ways. I tried different ways of that would sound more normal. And then I think I did this one. And then I played Tchaikovsky's version. And I think they could hear that it was. I told them it was like a flat tire. And so I said, so what we're going to do there is let's really be expressive when we get to that flat here. Let's go. So we can show that that there's something kind of odd about it. And they got it. I think they're getting into that. And I told them it was, that they had an assignment to try to figure out some ways to bring some of these ideas out. Because the danger in this piece is you can misunderstand it very easily and just repeat it over and over. And I hear that in a lot of interpretations where they don't seem to grasp that it really is developing an idea, and they get locked in just a kind of static, just banging around, So yeah, I think they got it. Well, we'll see. It's only, this happened just yesterday, but we had a really good rehearsal, and we also learned how hard it was going to be to play that in tune because he is cycling through all the keys so quickly. It's not like a piano where the notes are all there. You have to create them on a string instrument or on a woodwind instrument. And so it's all in your inner ear about how you're judging the spaces between whole notes and half steps. And so it's very difficult when something like that is shifting keys so quickly. And so I'm working a lot with the brass because this is a piece that, again, that can sound horrible or great depending on how sensitive your brass players are. I'll tell you something else, though, that you might not know as listeners, is this is not an easy piece for any orchestra to play for winds because Tchaikovsky is brutal. He doesn't give you any time to rest. And you're like, take that development section. There is so much for the brass. You're just like blown out, but you got to hold some in reserve because the coda is even more nuts. So it's a big endurance thing to be able to get through that for winds. Very hard for the flutes, especially because he has the flutes very high up, very frequently, and they just got to keep giving it. So yeah, there's a lot of air that goes into this piece. Yeah, and it's got one of the craziest, most giddy finales you can imagine. But to me, I'm always going to think about is how do you get off the escalator? How do you get off the carousel? It's just because he's set this thing up where it doesn't stop. It's just like those Escher prints. How do you get out of the staircase? Anyway, I thought that would be fun for you. Hearing the harmony like that. So anyway,
thank you, Russell. That was very interesting.
Part of what I'm up to.
Yeah.
I know I'll never hear that piece the same way again.
I hope not.
No, I won't, for sure. I mean, anytime I've heard it before, it just feels like this thing that just keeps propelling forward, bombastically a little bit.
Right.
But this actually puts it together in a very interesting light.
Yeah, I think I think I'm so aware of mental imbalance right now, and I'm feeling like Tchaikovsky really is is really taking it to an extreme here. It's remarkable. You know, when he revised the symphony, he did shorten this movement. You know, it seems like it's very long as it is, but it was originally 150 measures longer than this, and you can hear that in the original version, which is interesting. So yeah, I really admire that he. Even though the piece was so successful, he wasn't satisfied. I see why. And that was really something for him. It was about 6 years later that he just completely revised it, especially completely rewrote the first movement and made tucks and changes in the other ones, and then removed 150 measures. You know, I removed 70 measures from my piano quartet, and that was a big deal because it's not like you just cut 70 measures. You have to rethink the entire shaping and evolution of how the piece works. It's a whole different way of working. And so I have a kind of gut feeling for what he was doing, because especially once you start cutting, it changes the harmonic rhythm. And that's everything about whether you feel something, how it evolves and where it goes. And so you have to come up with a more convincing one, just like Brahms did in that trio that we talked about, the piano trio, Opus 8, that we talked about last week. It's just as remarkable to me how he changed his harmonic view of the piece as all the changes he made in texture and accompaniment. It took a lot of work.
Russell, let's shrink heads a little bit. I started listening to Tchaikovsky. I know my age was in single digits. There were snatches of the 1812 overture
Yeah,
in The Lone Ranger, those snarling trombones.
yeah.
And I found the 1812 and I found something else. And I found something else. And I've instantly conceptualized Tchaikovsky, been fascinated with him ever since. Now, why is that? I mean, I don't know. I just love the stuff. I can play it and listen to it over and over. And a footnote is I have heard the Second Symphony dreadfully bad. Was at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion with the LA and a guest conductor. I don't remember who it was, but I remember sitting there thinking, what the hell is this? But Tchaikovsky fascinates me. Everybody, here's your chance. Shrink my head, wisecracks, take a shot.
I, I don't think anyone on our group feels like Brahms did about Tchaikovsky. I think we all, I mean, he's such a master. I mean, on so many levels. You know, first of all, he has the same melodic gift as a Schubert. He's got a big piece of that, which is he and Brahms share that in common. But his accompaniments are really where he's like Schubert. He has such ingenious accompaniments. And one of the things that I'm enjoying when I conduct this piece is the syncopation. Yum ba da 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 dum ba da. It's hard not to want to dance with it. His music is all balletic, right? I think that's one thing you probably like about it, Michael, is that all of Tchaikovsky's music dances in the same way that all of Mozart's music is operatic. You know, one of the tricks to understanding Mozart, I think, when you're performing instrumental music, is understand that he thinks of all those themes as different characters, the accompaniments as different characters, and that you're actually having an operatic, dramatic episode going on. So I think Tchaikovsky is like that with the dance.
Yeah, I just saw Swan Lake. The Boston Ballet did Swan Lake at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and what amazed me is I'm not a ballet. I don't understand the stuff at all, but the whole thing just incredibly came together. Okay, how the music and the dance fit perfectly, and the music wasn't just tap your foot so that the dancers could spin around and twang around. The whole thing came together, and it was Tchaikovsky's music was the glue in all that. It's amazing stuff.
Well, he makes the orchestra dance, and one of the, even if he has a melody that seems kind of banal or a progression that's maybe he's repeating too many times, he has so many wonderful arabesques going on in the winds with his orchestration, and then punctuations in the brass. And even what I'm really appreciating in this piece is his use of the percussion, because it's so masterful where he leaves it out and then where he brings it in, and how the percussion really is what it's controlling the piece in many ways. And so, and he doesn't have that many. He's only got 3 percussion instruments. He's got the timpani, he's got the bass drum, and the cymbals. It's only 3, and yet it's doing the work of an entire string section. It's so much fun, and I'm having such a great time with the group. You know, it's not as seasoned a group as the group I had last year, but they're such I don't know, they just seem like such kind people, and they you can see they're really trying and loving working together. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.